What's going on, guys? This is August 27th, 2013. We're here with episode 10. That's Dies and some, I forget what it is in German, of Tech Habit Weekly. This is the one podcast where you don't have to have a 12-step program if you have a habit. I'm Bob Roche. Joining me is Dontae Harris and the guy behind the scenes controlling all the shots, Terrell Clark, being a Wirecast beast. And we have a bunch of stories to talk about today. Sorry for the lack of a show last week. I was actually on vacation, had an awesome time. I even got to meet Leo Laporte, so that was just out of this world crazy awesome. But the week before that, once again, thank you to Dontae and Terrell for pushing through. That was an awesome episode. And we're back today with even more awesome tech good awesomeness treats and all that sweet stuff for you. So Dontae, go ahead and kick us off with our first topic about Steve Ballmer retiring as CEO from Microsoft.
Yes, I don't know if anyone has really heard about this article here, but Steve Ballmer is set to retire from Microsoft in the next 12 months. Now, I don't know about you, Bob, but I've heard a lot of speculation on some of this in the past, and really just maybe about the last maybe 4 to 5 months ago. And basically, he put out a massive email to the employees of Microsoft, and it reads here that we've embarked on a new strategy with a new organization, and we have an amazing senior leadership team. My original thoughts on timing would have had my retirement happen in the middle of our company's transformation to a devices and service company. We need a CEO who will be here longer on a longer term for this new direction. Now, to me, it does sound the way it is. At first I thought there was some speculation, like, that guy's been running that company to the ground, and that's just a personal opinion by myself and some of the things that Windows has implemented in the past 12 months. So with this in light of him stepping down in the next 12 months, I think it's right. I think this is time where, he wants someone more dedicated to the actual projects that Windows has coming on in the upcoming future. I mean, I'm sure there's new updates and things going on to happen with their Microsoft Surface line and different products that they have with Windows 8 and Service Packs and things like that. So he wants to make sure he leaves on a good note, not in the middle of something. So to me, from a company standpoint, that sounds good. I mean, you don't want your guy that's in charge of any particular department to say, hey, guess what? Halfway in between this project, I'm out of here. You guys have a good day. So to me, this is good, but the thing is, you have to figure out, what does this do to Microsoft? You have to ask yourself, does this hurt Microsoft, or was he actually hurting Microsoft to begin with?
I mean, and you have to think about this. I mean, when he took the role in Microsoft as CEO, like about 10 to 13 years ago, I think it was in 2000, Microsoft was an entirely different company than it is right now, because now Microsoft is not only a software company that makes Windows and stuff, but now they're making their own hardware and everything now too. It's a totally different Microsoft than we all knew and loved, a decade ago. Now they have to worry about making phones and tablets, and maybe they'll even start manufacturing their own like PC tower boxes. I mean, you don't know what they're going to come out with. So, like you said, it's, I think, good that he left when he did, because, I mean, in the last 12 months, I got my hands on a Surface. I didn't really like it. I don't necessarily like the direction Microsoft is going. Not to say that's not for other people out there, but like you said, I think it's good that he left now rather than when they probably start to make even more hardware, make even more changes to Microsoft, because they already have a lot on their plate to try to keep up with all the Android devices, all the Apple devices, and so rather than be in the middle of that that transition and have him just be like you said, all right, guys, find a new CEO, catch you later. At least now, like everyone at the company knows, and now they're probably already looking for his replacement. And so it'll be better, I guess, easier later on to find a new CEO, someone that's more willing to take on not only a software company now, but also a hardware company as well.
Right, that makes sense. And then I also see that reports say that the stock prices have risen 4%, and this is the highest that it has been in 10 years since Ballmer first became the CEO of Microsoft. And another different fact, he and Bill Gates were actually roommates at one point, and actually that, Bill Gates, I'm sorry, my numbers were wrong. It's going to be 7.5% rise on that stock price in the past 10 years. And also, we hear that Bill Gates is actually happy about this decision and supports his decision in stepping down. But now you have to figure out, who is exactly going to take his place in this role. So we'll have to see, because, like I said before, it raises the question, was he actually holding Microsoft back because of some of the events and things that have happened in the past 12 months, Microsoft hasn't been the exact leader in really anything lately besides operating systems, but they've had that share for a very long time as a software company. Right. Now, and going back to what you said about the Microsoft Surface, I didn't really like it as much as I thought I would, but I can tell you this, it works perfect on its platform. The problem is Windows 8 as going to a desktop, it's just not very good for, and maybe, some of those different decisions and things that have been made at Microsoft in the past year, and actually maybe the past, say, even longer, 5 to 6 years, and he's been a CEO for a long time. Maybe those things have impacted pretty much everything after Windows 7 is where you start to see Microsoft stock take a huge dive. Yeah. So we'll see what happens when someone takes his place.
Yeah, and it's interesting to me too, because if you kind of compare it to like Apple when Steve Jobs left, and passed on, he basically, what happened is he hired the guy that he trusted most, and that was Tim Cook. And since, like you mentioned here, that Steve Ballmer and Bill Gates used to be roommates, it's kind of like this is Bill Gates' company, and he already kind of did hire like who he thought would be best. And so now it's not really up to the guy that was founded Microsoft. It's not really up to him now to make that call. Is that up to like Steve Ballmer then to pick the next guy? Because it's not like how Apple was, where Steve Jobs got to pick Tim Cook.
Right. I mean, that's something that you have to think of it kind of like in a hierarchy situation. I'm not sure if Bill Gates appoints that person, because a lot of, like you said, a lot of people, they actually, once they get in a certain position as CEO and things like that, they can appoint their own successors. And I don't know if that'll be the case in this particular situation, but we'll just have to see what happens in the coming months, in his final months anyway, and then we'll start to kind of unfold and see what really is happening at Microsoft. If it's up to him, or if it's up to the board of directors, or if it's up to Bill Gates himself. But we'll find that out as this story continues.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, guys, let us know what you think in the comments. Can you think of someone that would be right to take over Microsoft, that would be good for the direction that Microsoft is going in this new day and age of all these mobile devices, companies making their own software and hardware and services? Who do you guys think would be good for the job? Who do you think is going to pick who's going to be good for the job? Let us know in the comments down below. But now what we're going to do is shift gears over to the other side of the spectrum, and we're going to talk about some Apple hardware, some iOS platforms. And this is the possibility that the iPhone 5S, which is pretty much confirmed in terms of like all the rumors that have been going around and all this crazy stuff, but people are saying there's going to be a gold and a gray version of the iPhone 5S. Now, Dontae, would Apple do this?
Typical Apple, no. Apple new age right now, probably. Yeah, with Tim Cook, yes, because I feel like they're kind of running very thin off of Steve Jobs' ideas, and I could see it happening, and here's why. A lot of different companies are coming up with different colors for their phones. I mean, we all have seen the different things with the Moto X and different devices. A lot of people always talk about customizing their phones, and even with the iPod touches that are out, they're coming in a variety of colors. So to me right now, it would be a good time, honestly, to change the color scheme up in between the iPhone 5S. But at the same time, you're kind of shaking up a system that's always worked before with the two colors, and then you got to realize, from a company aspect, you have to look at it like this. Okay, how many black ones do we make? How many gray ones do we make? How many gold ones do we make? How many, so
it's going to be a rough first trial.
Right. And you can't do it evenly across the board, because statistically, certain colors are going to sell more than others, and certain ones won't sell probably as much. I mean, I'm sure you'll get your hit and miss, people that, hey, I want a gold iPhone or something. And from the mock-up pictures and the things that I've seen, it looks okay. I can't say that I would personally get the gold one if that was a color option, but the gray one looked nice. And
nice.
I could see Apple just trying to do this to basically stay up to, I don't want to say up to date, but kind of just in that same spectrum to where people can't say, hey, they've got colors, but you don't. You've only got two, and it's been the same two since pretty much the 3G has came out, because we all know that the 2G was, aluminum with black. Matter of fact, for any of you guys that want to be old school for about half a second. If you guys are too young or something, don't know, that's what one looks like. And yeah, it's in horrible
mine right
condition.
back there.
But yeah, but it does work. It does work. I actually use this in my car. It's not charged up right now, but just to give you guys a color scheme of what happens and what has been Apple's color scheme for a long time. And I have actually a black iPhone 5, and that actually wasn't my choice. I wanted a white one, but that's all that they had at the time when the supplies were very limited, very scarce. And Terrell has the white iPhone 5. So it's, just like that. I kind of like the just two colors, maybe because I'm personally just not a big color guy. I couldn't see myself with a red one or a blue one or something like that. Yeah. So that's just how it is for me. Maybe, people in the message or in the chat can, comment and say, if you guys would rather see a gold color, maybe more colors. I mean, a lot of people are doing neon colors now. There's a lot of greens and fluorescents and oranges and things like that are out. So we'll see. I mean, with so many leaks of the gold one and gray one, I mean, I'm not sure. I mean, there's a lot of them and they look pretty good, so I'm not sure if this is something that's going to happen. And we'll just have to wait for that keynote to come out when we'll find out.
Yeah, and if you guys haven't seen the gold iPhone, I mean, imagine C-3PO from Star Wars. It's not gold like that. I mean, you're not going to get like crazy fingerprints. You're not going to be able to see yourself like it's a mirror. I mean, it's kind of like it's a champagne color. It's like kind of like a darker gold, not like metallic or shiny. It's just, it's a matte gold color. So it doesn't look necessarily like really flashy or anything like that. But it's like, I mean, it looks kind of luxury, but it's kind of hard to explain. But it doesn't look like it'd be a gimmick phone or something that it's going to be in the supposed like iPhone 5C line where we might start to see some of those colors and a cheaper option. But I mean, it would be nice to give people some options. Like you said, and like my dad has always said, don't fix what isn't broken. The two color scheme has worked for a very long time, and personally, I still when the 5S comes out, I really hope they still have a white one because I really like I had a white iPhone 5 or iPhone 5, and I loved it. It was hard for me to give that phone up. So I've always been a fan of the black and white color scheme, and also things that I've heard online is that it'd be cool for Apple, like cool as in more convenient for Apple to make a gold version because it's easier to come up with that color. So like on reports online is that the dark black of the black iPhone is actually a lot harder to get chemically than the gold is. So that could lead to maybe a cheaper production or anything like that for Apple. So maybe they could make more of the gold version than of the black version. And since it's a new color, a lot of people when they go to pre-order it might say, hey, it's a new color. What the heck? I'll get it. If the black one's sold out or something. So
right, that makes perfect sense, Bob. Only because I remember when the iPhone 4 came out, there was a color issue with the white on the iPhone 4. Yeah, there was something about having the like behind the glass, and they couldn't get the whites like perfect. Right. And I remember that was a problem when that launched. So that makes sense. I mean, if the company's trying to do something to where they know that they can mass produce the same exact color, with a different color, it makes sense. And then also giving people more variety and things like that. So I don't think it can. I don't want to say it's necessarily going to be a bad thing if they're coming out with more colors, but I'm not sure if it's a great thing, I'm not sure because like you said, if it's not broke, don't fix it, or your dad said rather, because think about it. I mean, you go get a MacBook Pro from this year, last year, the year before, the year before that, the year before that. They're all they look identical. Same. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't think they're going to come out with, a red
MacBook Pro.
Right. MacBook Pro, and part of it's slate and part of it, is glass or something. I don't know. But because if it's not broke, don't fix it. Everyone knows a MacBook when they see it. They see the Apple logo. Hey, there it is. They just continue the white one. If people didn't already know that as of, I believe it was actually 2011, but the 2010 model is the last version of the white MacBook. So everything is either a Pro, Retina, or MacBook Air from here on out. So, but we could see, I mean, especially with the Mac Pro changing colors, I mean, it's black. So, we'll see. I mean, we'll see kind of, what they're going to do, what Tim Cook has, and just go from there. But to me, I'm going to stick, like you said, I like the white color. That's the one I like. I mean, I have a black iPhone 5, but I would really like the white, but they won't let you change after you get it. So we'll see what happens when I get my next upgrade, because, that's another thing. I'm ready to go on that upgrade too. So iPhone 5S, come see me.
Yeah, it might be actually kind of a good idea to pick up a gold iPhone, only because if this doesn't work out, say, for example, they projected this many gold iPhone sales and they just don't hit it, they're probably not going to keep making it. So it could be a rare model next year.
Yeah.
So might want to pick one
Very
up.
true. Very true.
But what do you guys think? Do you think they'll make a gold iPhone? If they do, tell us below in the comments. Would you pick up a gold or a gray iPhone? Or do you think Apple or and that yourself would just stick with, the traditional black and white colors, whatever the case is? Let us know in the comments down below. So now we're going to move on to some more tech stories here, also kind of Apple news here. iOS 7 is supposedly going to be available to the public September 10th, according to a developer's email. Now, we've had tons of leaks about September 10th being the date of the keynote, and it makes sense that if that's the day of the keynote, that's probably when they're going to release iOS 7, because you can buy the new 5S with the iOS 7 pre-installed, ready to go. Now, do you think that there's any truth behind this? Do you think that, based on all the rumors, that September 10th is the day?
Well, the problem is with all the different dates and rumors and leaks and things like that, you'd be almost stupid to not really believe any of them. There's been so many leaks in the past month alone that,
bad.
You really have to stay up to date and just keep checking on those sources, because I could see it actually happening. I mean, normally there's usually an October release, normally like a release, but for the conference and keynote and everything, I could definitely see this happening by September the 10th, and only because of how many different betas I've had of iOS 7. I mean, I'm on the 6th beta, so it's like, well, I'm pretty sure it's ready to go, here pretty soon. The current version right now, the iOS 7 beta 6, I have zero problems right now.
Awesome.
I mean, I don't have any overlapping text problems. I had a Bluetooth issue for a while with the icon, being like oversized and things like that.
I haven't seen
text messages. Yeah, it's really weird. I don't know if you guys have, different Bluetooth devices. Maybe you use your phone as, the source for the Bluetooth, to play your music out towards another source. Well, I was doing that in my car, and when I did that, I noticed that my symbol was like gigantic. I mean, it took over the status bar. I'm like, okay, that was weird. I'm like, okay, maybe that was just that one time. So I reboot the phone. It was the same thing, and it was an actual issue that was in there. So that's been fixed. My notification center, works just fine. I actually was able to airdrop too. I want to say myself and Terrell, we airdrop something. Yeah, and it worked.
I wish I had that.
Oh my gosh,
4S doesn't have it.
I know, but it's really rock solid, and I could definitely see that coming out on September the 10th, and with everything in light, especially with the leaked colors and things like that of the iPhone 5S. Well, everyone knows that the iOS 7 is going to launch with the new phone, of course, and then everyone else who have previous versions can, they will be able to download it through the over-the-air update and everything, or through iTunes. And yeah, I think it's a good time, and we'll just see what happens. I mean, but if this is out there, I'm thinking that's going to happen, or unless it's just out there to get the buzz going more with the closer release date of iOS 7 and the new iPhone. It could just be speculation. It could just be hype to get people like us covering it on this podcast and things like that. So we'll definitely keep an eye on it, and definitely have our calendars marked for September the 10th and see what happens with iOS 7 as it develops.
I have to agree that on the iPhone, iOS 7 is absolutely rock solid. I have zero problems with it. Now, the iPad's a little different of a story. The iPad is still pretty buggy. And, I mean, there's been plenty of times where, I'll go to access the multitasking, and I just get, the background. It'll parallax just fine, but there's no icons. If I hit the home button, if I turn it off, nothing happens. It's, not frozen, but it's useless. And so you have to sit there and restart it. And so that's happened to me, 10 times. And it's pretty frustrating because, also, I guess the only bug I've noticed, even on the iPhone, is that it takes forever to boot up. It takes a good 5 minutes just for it to get past the Apple, which I don't know if that's everybody or if it's just me, but it is definitely an issue for my devices. But so it's pretty annoying when that, happens, if you have to wait 5 minutes just to do something again. But for the iPad, what a lot of people are saying from what I've read online is that the iPad is going to be different than the iPhone. We're not going to see the actual release date of iOS 7 on the iPad the same day we're going to see it on the iPhone. And I think that's because at the iPhone keynote on the supposed September 10th date, they're not really going to talk about the iPad. They're probably going to save that for a different event so they don't put all their eggs in one basket, because this is going to get press as it is. So
Right.
they can, in a month, they could, a month after the iPhone, they could have a whole separate keynote for the iPad where they could hopefully, cross fingers, release a Retina iPad mini and the 5th generation iPad, and then they'd include iOS 7 with that. So these iPad bugs are more acceptable in that regard, because this is a month later supposedly than this is. So that's acceptable to me. But in terms of the iPhone, I think we're ready for a gold master, and I think we're ready to push it out the door.
Okay. Yeah, and I hear you all the way on that Retina iPad Mini release. Hopefully, they do have that because I actually have an iPad Mini myself, and I love this thing. And
Yeah.
it's yes, it's less powerful as your biggest iPad that's out there, of course. But I like the size of it. I like the convenience of it, and
Yep.
I don't feel like I'm carrying around anything bulky. So definitely a Retina iPad Mini, maybe the iPad Mini 2, would be perfect. I think if they can figure out the panel just right. And but yeah, we'll see. Hopefully we'll see if iOS 7 is ready for the public as of right now. And I say full speed ahead. I think it's
Yep.
ready to go right now. I don't think there's going to be another beta release, and there maybe there's something small that maybe we just can't see on the surface that maybe they need to
Mhm.
fix. But as far as looking at it in the layers and the way I use it, and I use my phone every single day and pretty much all
All
day.
day.
Yeah, it works very well. I'm actually surprised that when I got home today, and this is normal use, and I leave my house around 5 o'clock, 5 a.m. every day, I still had about 46% battery life
Nice.
and steadily using it. And I'm not one of those big like, oh, I'm going to turn my brightness down and do all that. My network stays on all day long. I get notifications. I'm texting, I'm tweeting, I'm doing things, all day long, looking at videos, things like that. So with a person like me that does all his normal usage, and as far as that goes, as far as the battery life and everything with iOS 7, I think it's definitely ready. And hopefully it does be released to the public by September the 10th.
Yeah, and it makes my mouth water too to hear those battery life that you're getting on your phone.
Yeah,
Imagine the new phone with a new battery.
exactly.
So
Exactly.
good. So let us know what you guys think in the comments. Do you think if you've used iOS 7, is it ready? I mean, is there anything you'd like to see added? Which I'm sure a lot of people are going to say, try to start like an Android war saying that, oh, Android does this, but none of that stuff. Just what you think Apple would actually add. Let us know in the comments down below. Personally, we both think that it's ready to go full speed ahead for Apple. Now we're going to shift gears into some Samsung news, and that's that Samsung has confirmed the Galaxy Gear smartwatch, and it's coming just shy of the supposed Apple keynote on September 10th. This at September 4th. Now, Dante, do you see, like, say for example, you get one of these for free? Do you think that you'd wear a Galaxy Gear smartwatch and enjoy it?
I would definitely wear the Galaxy watch, the Galaxy Gear smartwatch. I would wear it because I want to see how does that entail into my everyday life. As far as
Yeah.
getting notifications and things like that. I want to know what it's 100% capable of doing, and is it worth the cost? One thing they've been talking about is the flexible LCD or LED backlit screen on it and things like that. I'm like, okay, yes, that's very good technology. I understand that, but at the end of the day, what is that going to do for me that my phone cannot? More
Yes.
people are going to carry around a smartphone than a watch. I wear one occasionally, a watch on the weekends, but it's basically just a watch.
Yeah. It's kind of for
And
looks. It's not really
right.
functioning.
I'm not even sure if the battery works on that thing,
Just right.
but yeah, I just wear it's just more of an accessory. So I hope that the watches, as far as the Galaxy Gear, doesn't turn into a gimmick or something like that. But will I like it? I'm not sure, because if I'm going to spend any amount of money that's going to be more than let's throw it low. I'm going to say more than $15 on a watch. It better be worth every single penny, and it better be something I can wear every day. Because you have to think about it. When people go to work, what if people have a construction job or something like that? Well, you don't want your expensive, smartwatch on you while working construction, things like that. So, I'm just looking at more situations where people will probably be taking their watches off and things like that, and maybe the market to me is just not that huge on watches anymore because we've come so far. I remember a long time ago, in, I want to say, middle school, and you'd have to say, hey man, you know what time it is? And then, oh, I didn't bring my watch, man, it's in my bag. Well, those days are over. You
Yeah.
may ask a middle schooler now, they're like, what's a watch? And it's just one of those things. I mean, we'll see what happens with this, but firm opinion, I mean, I just feel like that they're trying to just jump the gun, of course, to beat Apple. They're going to come out September 4th if that Apple release is legit. And with the smartwatch, I just don't see the market being that huge. I don't know if this is going to be a problem. I don't know if they just hurried up and jumped the gun because of the rumors of the iWatch. Remember, you guys, we've been hearing a lot of things about leaked images of the iWatch, but now that news pretty much kind of fizzled. I mean, there's
Yeah,
still
yeah.
news out there, but there's no new updates to it. I don't know if that was just maybe a behind the scenes, real intuitive strategy through Apple just to throw something out there to get Samsung to spend a bunch of money on something that they didn't need, in a
Possibly.
market that they're going to be out there by themselves or just with one or two other smartwatch companies out there. So, will I like it? Probably not. Would I wear it? Definitely to try it out.
Yeah.
And if I could do it, I'd give you guys a review and tell you honestly what I like about it, what I didn't like about it, and if it's something I can see myself using every day.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like you said. There's a lot of situations where a watch just doesn't work out, and if you're going to pay more than $10 for it, you better just be prepared to buy an accessory that you wear from time to time, not something that you're going to necessarily factor into your life to make your life easier every day. So at that point, the price has to be really low. I mean, it's probably, and if the price is low, it's not going to be good quality. It's going to fall apart. It's probably not going to be water resistant. All this other things that we could talk about all day that go into making a product for your wrist at a very affordable cost and that fits in your life without being just some cheap gimmicky thing. So, I mean, I'm kind of with you here. I would love to try it out. I'd love to see how it functions, if it's reliant on its phone or if it has its own, antennas in its own memory, etc. And it'd be fun to try because I'm a geek, but would a lot of people go out and spend money on it? I highly doubt it. So
Right.
that's what we have to say about the smartwatch. And keep in mind, remember that September 4th date. We're also going to use that for our next story. And apparently, a Samsung executive has confirmed the Galaxy Gear and, drumroll, the Galaxy Note 3 for September 4th. So yeah, get that drumroll in there. Now, the Galaxy Note 2 is probably one of the more famous, I guess you could say, Samsung phones. I mean, the screen is so big. Everyone that has it and is a fan of Android seems to love it. And YouTubers like MKBHD give it all but thumbs up. I mean, absolutely great reviews everywhere. Now, do you think the Note 3, I mean, I don't know too much about it yet because I'm not an Android guy, but do you think that this Note 3 will continue and be the absolute successor to the Note 2 and get a lot of people to buy it?
Well, it depends. I mean, when you go through and look at some of the products that Samsung's has come out with, as far as like their tablets and things like that, usually from one tablet to another or one phone to the other, usually the specs aren't that high, that much higher, especially when you start getting into their tablets. Now, this particular phone with the Samsung Galaxy Note 3, I've been looking at different specifications for it, and to me, it's not that much more powerful than the Note 2. And I have a buddy of mine who has the Note 2 and he likes it. I mean, he goes through all the menus and whatnot, and he brought it over, I believe 2 weekends ago. And, I got to play around for a minute. And, like you said, I'm not an Android guy. I'm looking at it and I'm feeling like I'm going to go into an epileptic seizure because the screen is huge. And that's just myself. Personally, I just, I have a problem with screen sizes. Things have to be in my hand, ready to go, accessible. I've seen him trying to well, dude, let me show you how,
Reach for that
hello,
corner.
what's going on, man? Yeah, dude, we're going to be talking, So it was, to me, it just felt awkward, because it's not a tablet, it's a phone, and, well, I guess it's a tablet, but it's really weird. It's really on that line because the international version you can make phone calls with, and it's really weird. I mean, it's huge. I don't know. I mean, it depends on what people want to do, as far as the user themselves, and then you got to realize how much power is that thing going to have and how much does it need to be considered new. You know what I mean? I mean, it's like if Apple comes out with the Retina iPad Mini 2 and it has a slightly better processor and just say, oh, I'm sorry, let's take the Retina tag off. Let's just say it's called the iPad Mini 2 and they just upped the resolution a little bit and gave you a better processor, a little bit more RAM. You don't feel like you got, I'd keep my iPad Mini for that, but if it's a crazy high resolution, like a Retina panel, and it boasts crazy battery life, number one, this thing gets excellent battery life as it is.
Yeah.
And mine, I mean, it's used every day. And, if it's something like that, then that's worth the money and worth the hype. But there's been a lot of leaked images and a lot of leaked specs on this thing. So I'm thinking they're just going to go ahead and announce it because the cat's out of the bag. It's not any surprise or anything.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens with it. But and this article is coming from one of the Korea Times. Or they come up with this, and we'll see. I mean, because they're doing the whole it's a phablet, that thing, and I just don't think the market's big enough for that, honestly, because the iPad is kind of taking over that market, especially them signing this huge deal with different school districts where they're going to provide iPads for lots of kids and children, and even colleges now are going to be able to use tablets and whatnot at their school. So we'll see what happens with this when it comes out. But honestly, I don't think it's going to really do anything for them. It's just a new update. That's how I feel. So
Yeah, I mean, like when it comes time for me to get my hands on that iPhone 5S, that's going to be one heck of an upgrade for me. I'm going to be pumped about that because I'm sitting here with the 4S. Now, this is by no means a slow phone. Even on Apple's latest OS, iOS 7 Beta 6, it's still pretty snappy. But the iPhone 5S is going to have more RAM. It's going to have a faster processor. It's going to have that 4-inch display rather than the 3.5-inch display. So there's going to be a lot more things going for it. Whereas, like you said, from the Note 2 to the Note 3, there's not all that much. Now, it does say here that I believe the old phone is 5.5 inches on the screen. This one's 5.68, so it's slightly bigger. And now I know if this was turned around on Apple, people would be like, oh, it's only 0.5 inches bigger, 3.5 to 4. We could say the same thing about this phone. Granted, this screen is humongous, but at that point, I say, why even make it bigger? I mean, it's just that much bigger. I mean, like 0.1 inches bigger. I really don't see the point in that. At least this was like 0.5, like that's pretty substantial. But
exactly.
So to keep pretty much the same specs and they make the screen a bit bigger, that's just more pixels. That's gonna waste your battery more. It's more that the phone has to do to keep up with, that you're not really gonna get much extra for in terms of processing power and all that stuff. So
right.
A lot of people that love the Note 2, they just want to have the latest and greatest and the biggest screen. This is going to be the phone for that niche market.
Exactly.
A lot of people just want, an iPhone, the stability of an iPhone, or the customization of the Galaxy S3 or the Galaxy S4. I don't think that this is going to have the same amount of steam as the Note 2 had when it came out. I mean, I remember when that phone came out, that's all like my YouTube sub box was for phone guys, was the Note 2, and they all loved it. But now I feel like a lot of people have kind of moved on from that. The screen was really nice, but it's kind of clumsy to hold. Doesn't fit in all my pants pockets quite right. And
exactly.
I think a lot of people that love the Note 2, they might be looking for a different phone than the Note 3. But then again, there's going to be a lot of people that like the Note 3. So if you guys in the comments down below, if you have a Note 2, would you consider getting a Note 3? Are you just absolutely pumped out of your mind? Do you not want it? You're going to go for an iPhone or a Galaxy S4 or one of those crazy Huawei phones that are even bigger? Let us know in the comments down below.
Right.
But our next story here, Apple is piloting an iPhone trade-in program in retail stores for a September launch. Now, Dontae, do you have an Apple store near you at all?
Oh, yes. Matter of fact, I have 2 Apple stores near me, which is awesome, by the way. And with this particular program, I could see this helping people out with older iPhones. Like, say, if you have an iPhone 4, but it's always been in a case, it's in very good condition. You're like, well, I don't owe anything on this phone. There's no contract tying me to this particular phone or anything. And you don't want to go through the hassle of maybe trying to sell it on eBay or Craigslist or something. Well, I hear that Apple, they'll give you a gift card for returning your phone back with this trade-in service that's going to launch here in September, which further lets me think that the speculation on the iOS 7 release on September 10th may happen, because this is going to come out September 10th.
That same time frame.
Yeah. So just putting the 2 and 2 together, I could definitely see that happening. And this is very good, because a lot of people, you don't trust a lot of different ways, and you don't feel like you're getting scammed. You don't have to ship anything out. Just head down to your local Apple store and be able to get some money off towards your new phone, or maybe another just Apple device while you're in there. And it's a very good program. I'm actually available for an upgrade on my iPhone 5, so that's not a program that I would adopt, but definitely if I had an older, like 4S or something like you have, and that would be good to do. If that's what that's the method that you want to take for that. I mean, that's great. I mean, there's a lot of ways to get rid of devices, especially Apple devices. I mean, they hold their value for a very long time.
Very well, yeah.
And very long time. I mean, and everyone knows that try to Google, how much is your average, MacBook Pro, within like say 2011, 2010, the value is still going to be pretty high. So what this program is, I think it's pretty good. It gives people some choices. It gives, I guarantee they generate a lot of traffic with older people. There's a lot of older people that have iPhones and things like that. And because it's a simple phone to use, and, that'd be perfect way to upgrade to their next one. And, I think it's a good deal. Do you think you would use that program?
I'm not exactly sure. And the one thing that really gets me thinking is that, a couple episodes ago, I think it was like episode 7 or 8, that we were talking about all these carriers' early upgrade programs in which you kind of like pay for that phone and then you get like a new one. I wonder how this would play into that. Like if this is only for phones that are no longer on the contract, or if you could, during the course of your contract, say you're a year in and Apple just came out with their next phone, if you could like trade that phone in and get a credit towards the new phone, like how much Apple would give you for that phone. So I wonder how that would play into this. I'm trying to read in this article here, but we just don't have the details on that yet. But
right. That's a very good question. I mean, because think of a person like right now. I mean, yes, I am available for an upgrade on my iPhone 5, but what if I just bought the iPhone 5, a few months ago and go, oh man, the iPhone 5S was just released. How much would they give me for this? And that makes perfect sense. And then since you're doing it that way, would they, because typically, of course, the smartphone is going to be around. I usually use $649.99 as my base point on brand new smartphones. I mean, with no contract, like you're just buying it outright. Now, say if it's exactly. Now, if you're going to buy one that's $649.99 and they give you, $200 for your iPhone 5 or $300, you're like, and I know usually it's just another $100 usually for, your upgrade is usually $199 through, depending on who your carrier and how you're playing or set up, because there's jump service and things like that now. So, but if they're going to give you something considerably less, that may not be the best way. You may actually get more money selling it, maybe on eBay or something like that, then going in. So that's a very good question, And like you said, with the article that we have here that we're covering, there's just not any details on what you can and can't do with the trade-in service and how to go about it. So maybe once this actually launches or get a little closer to being launched, we'll find out those details and we can put it back here on Tech Habit Weekly for you guys and give any details.
And who knows, maybe Apple will actually bring this up during the keynote on, say, September 10th. We've done a lot of air quotes today. On September 10th, maybe Apple will come on the stage and they'll start talking us through kind of how this works. And if you need more explanation, they'll have a whole web page up for it and all that stuff. So is this something you guys would use? I mean, if you have an old iPhone, like I have a 4S, if you're going to upgrade, 4S, if you're going to upgrade to like a 5S, would you even bother making a trip to an Apple store, seeing how much they'd give you? Are you going to gazelle it? Are you going to eBay it? How are you going to get rid of it? Are you even going to keep it? Let us know in the comments down below, and because not everyone has an Apple store near them. So if you don't have an Apple store near you, then this is kind of pointless. But we'll just have to see how that pans out. Now, more Apple news today, which a lot of the Android guys watching our show are just going to love. Apple said to have tested a 64-bit A7 chip for the iPhone 5S. 31% speed increase is reported. Now, Dontae, we're geeks. We're pretty familiar with 32 versus 64. What exactly do you think that a 64-bit chip could bring to a mobile phone?
The only thing I could think of offhand, because it's a mobile device, is maybe something with better integrated apps. Maybe some of these apps are going to be so huge and require that 64-bit architecture and to have that faster speed to be on that chip, to process a heavier load. That's about the only thing I can think of. Now, with this being said, you have to look at everything from different ARM processors that are in phones and things like that. Well, a lot of these processors, they can process some pretty good speeds nowadays. I mean, there's ARM processors that can beat desktop computers as of just a few years ago, as far as the bus speed on it. And you have to think about too, where games like, say, Infinity Blade or something like that, those are real high intensive graphic games. And I mean, and I played on the iPad mini, and it gets hot, and I'm like, oh, okay. So when you're playing that thing and you're gung ho and going through the animations and things like that, you can burn up some energy using that. Well, having a 64-bit architecture will definitely help with that. And then also one thing that I've actually I just have smartphone ADD or something like that or something, but I'm very, very impatient with animations on my devices. So something having at least a 31% speed increase is definitely going to speed up your animations and day-to-day tasks that you're doing, especially when you're multitasking. And I don't know if people know, but the way that iOS 7 does the multitasking, it comes up and all the windows are there. Well, I'm sure that's going to require more RAM and things and processing to show you a preview of the last window that you've been looking at. And you can do this for every app that you've been in. I mean, I've had previews of my calculator, and things like that I've used on my iPhone 5. And this is very huge. I mean, I could definitely see this, being a big deal as far as mobile gaming. I mean, with apps, being bigger and better and more graphically intense. I think this is a very good move by Apple. And then also, they've been talking about, since they're going into the 64-bit architecture, would they have like a 128 gig version of the iPhone and maybe the iPad? Because honestly, you got to realize, with bigger apps comes less space, because the OS already takes a dedicated amount of space. Some unallocated spaces you just can't get back. It just happens. Once you get a 16 gig iPhone, like let's say iPhone 5 or something like what I have currently, you can only really use exactly. Yeah, I was going to say, I think it was like 13.6 or something crazy, but that might have been on iOS 6. And so that's the usable space that you can use for your pictures, your emails, and different attachments, and just anything that you want to save on your phone. And you got to realize, if the apps are getting bigger, say your average app, for a game, let's just say it's a pretty decent sized game that maybe you need Wi-Fi for, and those apps are usually something that's over 50 megabytes. And say that this app is 100 megabytes. Say it's Need for Speed or something for iOS, and it's 100 megabytes. And then later, when they revamp it, now it's 259 megabytes. Well, you got to realize that one app just doubled. And every time you do your apps over and over and update, you're going to run out of space pretty fast. So something like a 16 gig phone would actually run out of space pretty quickly once you get your favorite games and different applications that you use on there. And then you haven't saved your pictures or music on that device yet. So I could definitely see the 64-bit architecture being a big deal, and being able to launch with the new phone and having bigger size phones. I could see like the 32 gigabyte phone being the new 16. And just because, at least the way I use it, I mean, I love to have my music and pictures and things. My phone is literally my mobile office. And I could really see this being a big deal with Apple. And we'll definitely see. I'm like geeking out right now. I mean, this is
awesome.
This is huge. Yeah. And I'll definitely get that.
Yeah, one thing that I think that, I mean, let's face it, smartphones are still a pretty young technology compared to how long computers have been around. And so, like you said, as apps get bigger, as everything keeps getting more and more advanced, not only is obviously the speed increase for tasks and animation really is going to be awesome if this is true, but also keep in mind that, like I said, you're going to need a lot more RAM, especially like, say, for example, in iOS 7, the way that iOS 7 multitasks, the way that you can have, it has to actually generate all these different previews here. And so what I'm thinking is that maybe this new 64-bit architecture, this is going to be the start. Now, I don't expect this to happen, this year or next year, probably even the year after that. But you have to remember that 64-bit opens up options for more than 4 gigabytes of RAM. Now, right now, 4 gigabytes of RAM in a phone is just unthinkable. I mean, it's like how computers used to be. I remember if you had 4 gigs of RAM in your computer, that was out of this world. That was crazy. But now I'm starting to think that with how fast technology is moving, pretty soon we're going to start to see 2 and 3 and 4 gigabyte phones. And with that extra RAM, you'll be able to generate all these different live previews. Like, say, for example, you pause a game and your character is just sitting there, and you could be looking at the multitasking menu and have birds flying around within that app, and you can actually generate more realistic previews of the multitasking while your background is moving, while all this other stuff is going on that you just need more RAM for. And 64-bit allows that. 64-bit is crazy amounts of memory for its maximum that right now seems out of this world, but give it 10 years, I'm sure every phone across America and the world will have more than 4 gigabytes of RAM. So that's also something to keep in mind, with, of course, the obvious 31% speed increase across the phone, which is already just insane. So I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you think we'll see phones with 4 gigs of RAM anywhere near future? Dontae, what do you think about 4 gigs of RAM on a phone?
Honestly, I just see it just being a matter of time. I mean, I give it 1 to 2 years, because usually you got to think about some of these different companies besides Apple. They usually pump up the RAM to ridiculous amounts. And it's like you said before, the smartphones are pretty much very, very young. You know, they're still in the infant stages as of now, as to opposed to a computer. So when you know, it all starts the same. Every discussion starts the exact same. Oh, you don't need all that RAM. That's ridiculous. I run all my stuff on 1 gig of RAM. Now, bet money I kill myself tonight if I come back here and there's only 1 gig of RAM in this Mac Mini here. I have 16 gigs. It's maxed out. It's DDR3. You know, it's the fastest RAM that I can put in this machine. So, and why is because I'm running a 64-bit architecture on Mac OS, and I use a lot of multitasking. I have 2 monitors that I use. I have plenty of things running at the same time. Everything's running in the background, and that helps with smoother transitions. It helps with animations, and sometimes that's just the icing on the cake. Sometimes, like one good example is when I look at my weather. When I look at the weather, one time, you know, I just checked the weather for no reason. It just so happened to be raining, and when it took maybe, I say, a good second to refresh, and then it showed the raindrops hitting the screen in the animation. I'm like, you know what, that's just a nice touch now. And it's just very subtle, but those things, it takes processing power and memory to run those things. So having the 64-bit architecture would be very great, you know. And I don't know, I mean, let's just say they do come out with a 128 gigabyte phone. I mean, we've been seeing all these different mock-ups of the different colors and whatnot. You know, if you have a gray one, black one, white one, what if the gold one is the high standard on that one? Maybe they would kind of set that in an exclusive class and say, yes, this gold version is the biggest version that we make, but I'm sure they'll let that be available in other colors as well. But but going back to the 64-bit architecture, you know, it's just things like, if I don't know how well people know Mac OS, but one good example is OS X Snow Leopard was actually a 32-bit architecture system. As soon as you moved over into OS X Lion, which is 10.7, it's 64-bit. Now that caused a lot of trouble for people who say had a 2006 white MacBook, and well, the highest update you can get was 10.6.8 on Snow Leopard, and you couldn't even get the newest update because of the processor limitation on a Core Duo processor, you know, not being able to handle the 64-bit architecture. So this is huge. I mean, this could definitely make a huge dent in the technology world, and we can see more and more companies starting to take over that technology as things develop, because you got to realize these app developers are going to come up with things that's going to beat that 64-bit architecture to the ground and use up all the RAM that they possibly could. It might get to the point where one day you probably had bought a console game, say an Xbox 360 or something, and be able to play the exact game on your mobile device, not a ported version, but the exact game. Yes, not a dumbed down version for your tablet, not a dumbed down version for this, but actually running because of the RAM that it'll be able to hold in those newer technology smartphones and tablets, and even your phablets.
64-bit.
Exactly. Yes, that alone. So this could be huge, you know. So we'll definitely see.
I mean, it's definitely a direction that I'm really glad that this article exists, because if it's true, and I've seen many reports on this, that Apple has actually tested this, not that it's going to come out, you know, this year, but the fact that it was and probably is still right now being tested on a test bench somewhere, that's very exciting to me. And, you know, a lot of consumers, they're not even going to care. They're like, what's 64-bit? You know, I just want a phone.
Exactly.
They don't care. But they're not going to realize how big of a jump that really is. You know, once you get a 64-bit chip that's multi-core, and I'm sure it's only a matter of time before we have a quad-core iPhone. We already have a quad-core iPad, you know, so it's graphics mostly, but it's the future. I mean, it might seem kind of ridiculous now to have a phone with 4 or 8 gigs of RAM, but just give it a couple years with how fast technology is moving, and I can guarantee we're going to see it. And 64-bit is exactly what's going to allow that. So yeah, exactly. It'll be here before you know it. It'll be like the Hyperloop and the time continuum. So what do you guys think? Could you see like maybe some crazy Android phone having a 64-bit processor or something? Whatever it is, let us know down in the comments. And now this is the part of the show that tastes the best. This is the part of the show that I'm sure you've all been waiting for. Heck yes to that face right there that Dontae's making. This is our Tech Treats of the Week. This is where we pick an application or a piece of hardware or something like that. It could even be a snack food. Who knows? Could be in the next episode. But this is where we pick something that we've liked this past week that really just got us thinking that, you know, how much we love it. So Dontae, kick us off with your Tech Treat.
My Tech Treat is a very salty, full of huge megabytes of just cholesterol.
Salt, fat, and cholesterol.
Exactly. You know, this is only place where you can get a treat that won't let you gain 50 pounds unless it's in your app store's wallet. Now, this is what's going to happen here. My tech treat for today is actually called iStudies Pro, and this is essential. As a college student myself, Bob, you're a college student, is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Unfortunately.
Exactly. Yes, we're both in the same boat there. And when it comes to organizing my schedule, my times, I mean, there's a lot of things I have to do. And with this particular app, you can go in and set, individual classes by your teachers and different things like that to keep yourself up to date. You can sync this. You can take, get things to sync towards Dropbox and things like that. It is a very good app, and it was a $2.99 price tag that's on this app, and it is very, very good. As soon as I just read the description of what it could do, I hit the button right then and there and bought this app. It has already saved my life because people just, I don't want people to get the wrong idea. This is not like just an external calendar, like, oh, it's just another calendar. I can do that. I can do that in my calendar. Well, yeah, in about 50 more steps. With this, you can actually put grade point averages and things like that.
Names.
Exactly. Instructors' names, classes. You can put this down to a literal science of how you go to class. And Bob, you actually have it running on the iPad, and it actually looks better on the iPad. Could you show our viewers out there what's going on? So now he's got it open here, and as you can see, with the different transitions and things that you can put in there, and you can put different times for this class is at this time and this class is at that time, and it will actually sync up, with your iOS device. It'll sync up to Dropbox. It's a very, very nice app. I encourage anyone that's actually going to school to use this app to stay organized. And there you go.
That's my homework. So these two I actually did right before the show. So you know what I can do? I can tap it. You know what? That homework assignment has been completed today. And so you can even have it remind you 2 days before an assignment is due, hey, do that. And as soon as you get it done, of course, there's an iPhone version, like you're saying. It syncs between your iOS devices. So you can see it's the second icon right up there. It has that little notification that lets you know all your assignments that are due. So you can tap on your app there, and it'll go ahead and launch. And the first thing that it'll do when it launches is it'll actually sync. So now that assignment that I just checked off on my iPad, it also shows that now it's completed on my iPhone as well. And you can create events, then it'll sync over here too. So you can have your teachers, their names, where the class is located.
Different assignments.
Everything. Yes.
There's even the assignments tab is, I'm going to show it on the iPhone 5 here. The assignments tab here has the different dates and times that are due, you can add the course on there and everything. And it is very good. Let's see, right here in my planner, if you go over to the planner tab down at the bottom right hand corner, I actually have it's separated by holidays. You can throw your holidays in just in case you forget and go, wait, that is today. That way you don't accidentally show up to school and look like a fool because you didn't have your calendar set, or maybe you're on an Android device and look like a fool anyway. But that's for another discussion. Now with this here, like I have my teacher here, her name is Nynthia. I can barely pronounce her name, Nynthia Norwegian. She's so, but basically with that, I can put any one of my teachers in there, no matter who it is, if for math or I'm taking a lot of programming classes. So if it's with that, I can have it completely separate, doing its own thing, and it works perfectly. And like I said, I encourage everyone to get that. I believe they do have a free version, but I'm just not sure of all the features that they have on the free version. But it's $2.99. For the price tag and what it can do, it's huge. It's like your notification center, reminders, calendars, and a special planner that's directed just towards your college and assignments, all in one program. I'm so glad this came out because honestly, juggling in between paper and folders and curriculums and schedules and all that, trying to get all that stuff together. You can even put it in as like the class number. Most college classes, they have like some crazy, like you might be taking class into 2012 THW Tech Habit Weekly, Arnold Schwarzenegger, vocational. I usually figured out how we're going to do it. We're going to get in there. Yes, Tech Habit Weekly. But, you can separate it by anything possible and keep them on the same deal, and it will sync. And, of course, since it's in the iOS, App Store, you can have this sync abroad. I can get this on my iPad. I can get this on my phone. I can get it on my Mac here in my reminders list, and it'll tell you everything you need to do, and
Yep.
I love it. I love it. So
Also, yeah, another thing that's also awesome because it's on the iPhone vibrates. And what happens to me a lot is I'll be working on my computer at a table, and it's between classes, of course. So you're not really watching the clock, and it's very easy to be late for class. You're like, oh crap, I was working on that, and you have to run to class. But I have this set to, vibrate 15 minutes before every class starts. So I'll be working, oh, I have to go to class. And then you walk away. So never have I been late as long as I've been running this app. And I've been using this app, I will say, for the last 2 semesters of my college career, and I don't know what I'd do without it. It's an absolutely awesome app. $3 for it is a steal. I'd pay 10, I'd pay 20 for it, just for how much it's helped me.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's definitely that treat's gonna give me cavities, man. You gotta calm down with that, man. That's just
exactly.
That's
I know. I'm geeking out over here. I mean, since the Log Me In app, this is one of the apps I have like really been excited about, and this here it's crazy. I mean, just because I know it may sound simple to a lot of the listeners out there, but it basically takes all of the problems and things that you can't manage time with and puts it together, and it's right there on the same interface. You're like, oh yeah, I do need to do that screen. And that. Okay, I already completed that. So what do we got to do next? I mean, it's perfect. Instead of going, I got to do
what was that thing
intro to program
Schwarzenegger.
C++. It was matter of fact, I believe that's how Honor got that. It was because he was going to college. He was trying to be Mr. Universe, and he tried to do it. I don't know how many ways I'm supposed to get that. I can't do it. No, I have no iPhone. It's not out yet. No. So yes, it is huge. It is huge, and I can't stress it enough. As a college student, as a person that you try to be as organized as possible. I have many devices. I've got a lot of iOS devices. I try to use my phone as much as possible as far as notes and everything, but keeping them all in one place is just great. So, I need to calm down here. I'm going to get ready to, this team here, iStudies, my iStudies team is the developer. They just got the hugest plug they've probably ever got, and yeah. Good app.
Yeah, it's because of this app. It's because of this app that Arnold Schwarzenegger became the governor of California. This is why. So now, as Dontae, you mentioned, I am also a college student, and I also have all these problems. And I also use that app, but I also use another app, which is my tech treat, and this one is called Notability. So I'll go ahead and I'll show you the icon for it right there. And Notability, as you could probably tell, it's a note-taking app. And I'll tell you what, I've used this for 3 semesters now at school, and I've literally not had to take a notebook to class in a year and a half because of this. This right here has replaced a stack of notebooks about this thick. Notebooks and binders. It's ridiculous. And so I'll just go ahead and I'll give you guys a quick walk through it here. This is like the main page. This is where you start. As you can see right here, I have my previous 2 semesters. I have spring, let me see here. It's,
2012. Nice.
Yeah, fall 2012, spring of 2013, and now fall of 2013. So, and once again, those semesters, fall 2012 was a year ago, and I still have all the notes I took from that year. So I'll go ahead and I'll go into, let's say, economics here, and I'll go ahead and I'll try to show this as best as I can to you guys. But here's a list of all my notes from my economics class. Each one of these is a different day. These are all notes. And so what's really nice about this application and the iPad in general is that I can hook up my Bluetooth keyboard to this because my handwriting is chicken scratch. There's been so many times where I've taken notes in class and I'm like, what did I even write? Like, I can't even read this. And then I miss like 40 points on a test. So I can type in this application with my keyboard, and it's awesome. But also, as you can see right here, this allows for free writing as well, like, handwriting. And so if, say, for example, this is an awesome class as an example, this is my economics class. There's a lot of graphs and there's a lot of different freehand stuff you have to do in economics that you just can't do on a keyboard. You have to make the graph, you have to plot points, unless you have a program like Excel, you really can't do that. And then you start switching between apps in the middle of class, and it's impossible. It's just impossible. So this app lets you have the best of both worlds. And to demonstrate how fluid this application is, here, I'm going to stand up, I'm going to get into this here. I'll go ahead and I'll just draw a line. And it's drawn already, so I don't know how well you guys can see this.
Wow, that's really responsive.
It's seriously like writing on paper. It's seriously like a one-to-one movement. It is phenomenal. It is so fast. And also, too, say, for example, your finger is kind of fat, and I use a stylus in class. But, you can zoom into these notes like it's no one's business. I mean, and on the Retina display, let me tell you what, that is the clearest text you will ever see zoomed in.
Nice,
and so when it's nice and zoomed in, I mean, you can see how fluid, how responsive this application is. I mean, it is a phenomenal app, and I think it's the same price at $2.99. And another thing that's really cool is that in that year, a year ago that I started taking notes on this guy, I haven't had to, restore my iPad or anything like that. But if I did, as soon as I come back out here and come to this list right here, you probably won't see it in time, but in this corner, it says backing up. What it's actually doing is taking any changes I just made to that and backing it up to Dropbox. So if I crack my iPad, if I drop it, or I upgrade to a new one, I can simply go on Dropbox and re-download all of my notes exactly how they are. And not only that, but this application also supports printing. So if you do want to print all these notes out, 3-hole punch them and throw them in a binder, you can absolutely do that, and it's perfect.
Nice.
So this is an absolute must-have application. I mean, between iStudies Pro, which was Dontae's pick, and this application, this is literally all I've been taking to class for a year.
Wow.
Except a couple textbooks, of course.
Of course.
This application,
that's really nice, man.
awesome application. I cannot recommend it enough. It saved me so much hassle. And like I said, it's really cool too, because when I bring my Bluetooth keyboard to class, I prop up my smart cover, it looks like I have a laptop. And if I have to do some freehand writing, I'm ready to write. All you do is it's a tip of the smart cover, and then you're good to go. So for $3, this is the absolute best note-taking app on the App Store. I'm very confident of that. And definitely if you have an iPad and you're a college student and you're looking to, I guess, digitize your college career, you don't want to carry around a stack of notebooks or worry about tearing out pages or anything, by all means, do yourself a favor and get this application.
Very nice.
As long as
like
your
that
teachers,
application.
you need to buy it, man. I mean, the only issue that I've ever run into is that my one professor was not okay with digital notes. He didn't allow computers in class. And that I wanted to punch him in the face. Yes.
No offense to anybody using Android phones out there, but that was a very good tech treat, Bob. And I do like that app because, you know what, just so you don't feel bad, I too have chicken scratch handwriting. Matter of fact, I took a class, Can You Write Better Than a Fifth Grader? And when I put my notes up, they thought I was writing in hieroglyphics. So that would definitely be a good, app for myself, because my handwriting is not very good. And then, no offense to anyone who has, obese fingers. That's what I'm going to try to be politically correct with it, but, we've all fat fingered, no pun intended, fat fingered a tablet or, button or something like that before. So being able to have the zoom feature on there was really nice. And, to implement that with your notes and things like that, I think is great. I mean, because I'm like you, I want to take as least as possible into the classroom with me. Hopefully it's just going to be this guy here and, and maybe just my phone really, and be able to do everything that I have to do. But very, very good app. Very good app.
Absolutely. I mean, if you guys go to college, definitely check out those two apps. And for both, you could buy both those apps for $6. $6. You could go from carrying a stack like this and breaking your back and having all these worries to just carrying this to class. And I will tell you what, though, I'm glad that I have the big iPad for that, because, a 10-inch screen versus a 7-inch screen for taking notes, that extra space really does help. So, I mean, you can get this app and see how it does on the iPad mini, but this is one, like, the one case where I would rather have the 10-inch iPad. But that's variable, and like you saw, you can zoom in, so I don't think it'd be that big of an issue. Right. But let me tell you what, fantastic app, and yours too, because trust me, I've been using that for a while too, and I love it. So if any of you guys are college students, then you owe us.
Yeah,
because we saved your whole year. So, but anyway, that's going to wrap it up for this show, guys. Thank you very much for watching. Dontae, be sure to tell them where they can find you online.
Oh, they can find me at Twitter at KC Nightmare. That's capital KCNIGHTMARE. Nothing special there. Of course, here on Tech Habit Weekly, you can catch me at one place for Apple and one place for tech. And thanks again, guys, for having us. Bob, CPU Kid Roche here. Terrell Clark, our producer. Give a shout out to him. And
absolutely.
Happy fat fingering.
Yes, happy Fat Finger Tech Treat Day. You heard it here first. Mark your calendar for August 27th. That's a new date. It's a new thing. All right, we'll see you guys next week. Now, our schedule might be changing from here on out. We're not quite sure yet, because, after all, we are in college. Very busy, so we're going to do our best. If we have to change the day of the show, we're going to do whatever we can to bring the show to you guys, because from what we see, you guys really like it. And be sure to tell your friends about the show, because we do have some awesome tech treats here, and I don't even need a program or anything like that. So be sure to check out us, on Twitter, and on one place for tech, one place for Apple, Roche Technology, everything we basically just said. I'm not going to say it again. And we'll see you guys back here next week.